Hey everyone, let's dive right into this explainer. Look, if you're an IT pro in India trying to transition into one of those super lucrative Guidewire roles, let's be real, you've probably been fed a ton of bad advice. You know the stuff. Those flashy ads saying, hey, get certified in 30 days and literally double your salary overnight. Well, spoiler alert, it doesn't actually work like that. Today, we're going to completely cut through all that noise. We're looking at the actual data to show you the real roadmap to success. Here is exactly what we're covering today. First, the big certification myth. Then, building the foundation. After that, we'll hit the high-leverage skills, followed by experience before certification. And finally, we'll wrap up with the next era of Guidewire. Let's get right into it. Kicking things off with Section 1, the big certification myth. Let's just go ahead and shatter the absolute biggest misconception out there right now. Unlike AWS or, say, Azure, you cannot, I repeat, cannot just go online and buy a Guidewire exam on the open market. It is entirely employer-gated. What does that mean for you? It means access is locked behind an organization, usually an insurer or maybe a consulting partner who's actually working on an implementation. Bottom line, if you aren't employed by one of them, you simply aren't getting into that exam portal. So that old myth of grinding through a legacy 4-tier certification ladder in 30 days, yeah, that's completely busted. The reality we're facing in 2026 is vastly different. Exams are employer-gated, and they focus exclusively on the modern associate and ACE tracks. Your main goal here actually isn't to get certified to get hired. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. You need to build absolutely undeniable skills, get hired by an insurer or consultancy first, and then get certified from the inside. Oh, and it gets even more intense because Guidewire operates on a really strict N3 rule. Think of 3 as the magic, or maybe not so magic, number. It represents the maximum number of product releases your certification can lag behind before it basically self-destructs. Seriously, your certification literally decays if you don't pass their new features checks within 3 releases. That's exactly why a 2023 certification is basically a blank piece of paper today. It's an ongoing, continuous commitment. Moving right along to Section 2, building the foundation. Let's talk about how to actually get those skills. Step 1 on this roadmap is going to surprise you because it has absolutely nothing to do with writing code. Zero. Before you configure a single thing, you have to spend 2 to 3 solid weeks just mastering property and casualty insurance basics. I'm talking about concepts like underwriting, subrogation, and F&OL, first notice of loss. Why? Because Guidewire is a heavily domain-driven platform. You simply cannot configure what you don't understand. Once you have that domain knowledge locked down, then you tackle the platform fundamentals. And finally, you must pick one single application to master first. And how do you choose that application? Well, it should depend entirely on your own background. Let's break it down. ClaimCenter is definitely the gentlest entry point. The whole claims lifecycle just makes logical sense to most people. And the hiring demand for it is incredibly strong right now. On the flip side, if you're a seasoned Java developer, PolicyCenter offers a much higher ceiling with some seriously complex configuration work. And then there's BillingCenter. It's a bit of a niche area, which actually makes it a fantastic, far less crowded path if you happen to come from an accounting or finance background. Okay, so you've picked your app. Now we move into the actual technical buildup. You're going to progress from the underlying language right into the daily configuration of PCF. That's page configuration format, pages, and business rules. And finally, you'll dive deep into mastering the intricate entity relationships of the data model. Let me tell you, that data model stage, that is exactly where the truly competent developers separate themselves from the rest of the pack. Let's actually pause for a second on that underlying language I mentioned, Gosu. This is Guidewire's proprietary JVM language. Now, if you're already coming from a Java background, Gosu is more of a short bridge to cross, rather than a whole new mountain to climb. But make no mistake, you absolutely have to practice its specific syntax. We're talking enhancements, query APIs, transaction management. You need to grind on that for at least 3 to 4 weeks to actually be useful. There are just no shortcuts here, folks. All right, up next is Section 3, the high-leverage skills. Once you've got the core down, you need to focus on your secret weapons, the skills that actually make hiring managers sit up and take notice. And here is a massive takeaway for you. Integration is the absolute highest leverage specialization on the entire platform. Why? Because absolutely every single implementation needs it. Fewer people actually specialize in integration, which means if you take the time to master cloud APIs and event messaging, you become incredibly, undeniably valuable. Insurers desperately need their core Guidewire system to talk to external stuff like payment gateways, medical bill reviewers, and rating engines.
But listen, here is where so many people completely waste their time. Please, whatever you do, don't spend 3 months chasing down a Kubernetes certification thinking it's going to magically land you a Guidewire job. It won't. Guidewire already manages the infrastructure layer on the AWS cloud, so what you actually need, you just need to understand basic CI/CD pipeline concepts and deployment realities. You don't need to know how to write crazy complex Terraform modules or administrate Docker. Save your energy and focus on what actually moves the needle.
Which brings us to Section 4, Experience Before Certification. This all raises a really obvious question, right? How on earth do you prove you have these integration and configuration skills to an employer when you don't even have the certification yet? Well, while you're waiting to land that job and get employer access to the portal, you build a portfolio. You sit down and create really clear 2-page design write-ups for business scenarios. You draw out data model diagrams completely from scratch. You build integration stubs. Oh, and make sure you optimize your LinkedIn. Don't just call yourself a generic Guidewire professional. Specifically name your skills, like PolicyCenter configuration or Cloud API integration. Make it crystal clear. And if you're wondering if all this extra effort is worth it, just look at the massive salary gap out there. We're talking about a generic 8-lock entry-level estimate versus a 20-lock reality for pros. That insane difference comes down to one simple thing: project-driven hiring. Experienced, highly specialized integration or configuration experts can easily push well into that 20-lock range and beyond. They completely bypass those generic averages. Your specific, provable expertise is exactly what dictates your salary. It's a real game changer.
So let's map all of this effort out onto a realistic timeline. And yeah, this completely exposes any of that marketing fluff promising a 30-day turnaround as an absolute lie. A genuine interview-ready transition, that's going to take you roughly 6 to 9 months of consistent, focused effort. You're going to spend the entire first month just wrapping your head around the fundamentals. Then the next few months on Gosu and the data model. And after that, months of actual hands-on practice. That is the hard truth of the effort required here.
Finally, we've made it to Section 5, the next era of Guidewire. We absolutely need to talk about how this platform is evolving right now, because your skills have to future-proof your career. Take the upcoming August 2026 Quasar release as the perfect example. This update is bringing developer assistance and an agentic framework for AI agents natively onto the cloud platform. What does that mean for you? Well, it means routine configuration is going to get way faster and way more automated. Because of that, your value as an employee is going to aggressively shift toward complex integration architecture, deep domain reasoning, and system design judgment. Just being a basic coder? Yeah, that's simply not going to cut it anymore. To wrap things up, Guidewire is an absolute long game. You really need to ask yourself, are you preparing for some 30-day certificate illusion, or are you ready to build a solid decade-long career? The professionals who truly win in this space treat this roadmap like a long-term build, not some frantic sprint to grab a piece of paper. The skills are what open the door, the certification merely widens it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, guys. Now, my challenge to you, go start mastering those P&C fundamentals today.